It's a great day in SimWorld, everybody. Good morning and welcome to SimWorld Today. I'm B-Ron, and alongside me for the morning is JR Storm. What's going on, man? How you doing? I feel like I just talked to you a few hours ago.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Ready to talk some SimWorld use this morning and whatever else. Let's get to it.
Yeah, we had a big night last night in the world of sports. Starting, let's get things started on the gridiron, shall we? The Bills and the Jets played last night on Monday Night Football, and the Bills ended up snapping their two-game losing streak in the process, picking up the win over the Jets 23-20. And the Jets with the new coach after the firing of Robert Saleh had to start off on the wrong foot there, with the Bills picking up the win 23-20, and it all kind of came to a head when Teron Johnson picked off Aaron Rodgers to kind of steal the game there when 2 minutes left.
Yeah, another disappointing game for the Jets, but you look at Aaron Rodgers' stat line, 295 yards, but pretty much 70% of that went to two receivers. The Jets had two guys over 100 yards receiving. The
Yeah, yeah,
Jets offense still managing to somewhat produce, but just not translating to wins.
yeah, and that's a shame when you look at what they have, is because their defense is pretty good. Um, but the offense didn't do enough last night to really uh give them the edge that they need. And I saw a stat during the game last night about Aaron Rodgers. Crazy stat when you think about it. Since 20, I think it was 2021, 2022. He hasn't thrown over 300 yards in a game, and before that he had like 65 or some games over 300 yards with the Packers or something like that. Something crazy like that. It was wild to think about that. And he was so close last night to getting over 300 yards, just couldn't do it, and the Jets couldn't get the win as a result. And Josh Allen, I really liked him, and he looked really efficient again last night, and they continue to avoid mistakes. That was his sixth game in a row without throwing an interception at all.
Yeah, the Bills have really surprised me. They've been playing great football to start the season. Definitely did not expect this out of their offense, after trading Stephon Diggs to Houston. But they're still finding a way to produce even without really having a marquee level guy outside of Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I was unsure about the Bills and how they would respond without having Stephon Diggs. I did think they'd still be one of the top teams in the AFC this season without him, but at the same time, I was still kind of like, do I really believe that, or am I just saying that to to keep kind of the recent traditional years alive? But
But
it
but
seems
then out of
like I
the
was on something.
but then out of the AFC, I mean, you got to look at the AFC is kind of weak in my opinion. Outside of Kansas City, really, who can you say outside of Kansas City is a shoe-in to be in the AFC Championship game?
I don't think there are any shoes. I think there are strong teams in the AFC. That's more so where I was going with that, because you have, again, you
Right.
mentioned the Chiefs,
Right. That's fair. That's
Ravens,
fair.
Bills. Chiefs and Bills have been that top three, and the Bengals have been top 3, 4 for the last couple of years or so now.
And to
Whether
me,
that's getting to the playoffs or the championship game or not, that's still been the
right.
case.
Right. But
So
yeah,
that's more of that.
yeah, very fair point, and not any team is going to be perfect, obviously.
Right.
When you look at Cincinnati, you look at Baltimore, you look at Buffalo, you look at Kansas City for that matter. None of them are perfect at all. So I think the way the AFC plays out, and maybe the Jets can turn things around, who knows? You've got a future Hall of Fame at quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, anything is possible. So I think Kansas City makes it back to the AFC Championship game because I just don't see anybody being able to stop them at least that far. But I think that second team is really going to be interesting to see who gets that second spot.
Yeah, we'll definitely see who gets that one. And speaking of teams and falling down and rebounding, that kind of thing. Let's switch to more you. Suno Champa and the Oklahoma Sooners, they had a tough task start off the week. They struggled to start the season, and they were going up against the new number one in Tennessee. That number one did not last long because Volunteers got upset on their home floor by those very Sooners, 98-86. And Floyd Henderson had himself a game last night. 29 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, but also both Jason McGath and Suno Chapa had their biggest games of the season 2 so far. McGath's 27 points. Suno Chapa had 16 points himself. But despite in the middle of all of that, though, we have to talk about the fact that Trey Turner didn't really have the best of nights. Not one we're used to seeing anyway. Only 13 points and 5 assists. Malik Riles ended up leading the way for the Vols in that one last night. But and Champa was defending Turner all game long, and there were some heated moments in that game. At one point, Choppa even was heard yelling at Trey Turner. Long day and long day any and every time. He was shutting him down and letting him hear it too. And even after the game was over and everything, there were even some more words that came between the two in the handshake line, and they had to be broken up. So, in addition to all that, the rough night continued because the mental game got involved there too, JR.
Yeah, definitely. The mental game always plays a big part, and Trey Turner, like you said, 13 points, only on 6 of 14 shooting. You know, it's very rare that we see Trey Turner have a bad night, but everybody's going to have a bad night, you know, at some point. So I'm not too worried if I'm Tennessee. Riles, he has sort of, I think, clearly emerged as that number 3 guy behind Turner and Henrik Vekic. And Henrik Vekic, who also had a 20-plus point game, last night. So you're getting consistency out of Henrik Vekic, and now you're having Riles step up as that number 3 option. And you know what you're going to get more often than not out of Trey Turner. Tennessee's got a very scary dynamic trio right there,
Yeah,
but I'm not too concerned if I'm them. And for Oklahoma, 29 for Henderson, 27 for Miguez, 16 for Chapa. Suno Chapa finally starting to, kind of get it rolling. I mean, if Suno Chapa can continue, to keep going like this, like he did in yesterday's game, do I think he's going to be like a 18 to 20 points a night guy with Henderson and Miguez ahead of him? No. But if he can chip in like 12 to 15 and be tenacious like he was on the defensive end, I think that's all you could ask for. All you could ask of him.
yeah. Well, look, I'll tell you what. I was really impressed by the defense that Oklahoma played last night. It, like I said, was smothering on Trey Turner, and it's so hard to pick your poison between Trey Turner and Henrik Beckett, who's gonna have the big game because both of them are tough to stop in their own right individually. So, but when you can hold a guy like Trey Turner, who's known for his prolific shooting, you can hold him to the night that he had, that extends your chances of winning tenfold. And last night, the Sooners were able to do that and knock off number one. They only lasted a day in the top spot, if you count Sunday as the day with the SP. has been probably coming out, only lasted 1 day as number 1, and with the next game, which we'll get to here shortly, we'll probably have a new number 1 on our hands again next week, but it looks like here early on, JR, that number 1 spot is not safe, and, you know, move with things not being safe and everything like that, Mick Cronin, before we get to the UCLA Kentucky game proper, Mick Cronin, head coach for UCLA, he ended up not being on the floor in the final minutes of that game last night. JR, we were on the call for that one, and it was reported later on that there were some personal emergencies that he had to deal with at that point in time, and there was nothing else that could really be nothing else really came on after that. But I also had a chance to catch up with Jalen Snow after the game, and he had said that he couldn't really get into it. Yeah, he couldn't really get into it. He knew that coach was dealing with something, but that's all he knew. So no one really knows anything at this point in time. So whatever it is, obviously for Coach Cronin, that it gets sorted out and figured out, and he's able to, you know, come back. But I do want to note that before all of that kind of went down, there was an incident where he was he had pulled JJ Ortega from the game. There was a foul he committed, and he was giving him a bit of a what for, at that point in time too.
Yeah, definitely. He was not happy at all with that move by J.J. Ortega. But like you said, I'm sure more will come out over the next day or two or the couple of days about what went on behind the scenes. So it's just the fact that it happened when whatever happened when it did. I just think you can't control the timing, obviously.
Yeah, it was poor timing, and it wasn't a good look given, again, what went down a few minutes prior to all of that. It looked like that it looked like Cronin had given up on the game. That's what it looked like from an outsider perspective. I can imagine, because even I was like, wait a minute, where's McCartney? What happened? He left the floor because he wasn't on the floor during that timeout that they had taken down the stretch of that game. But now we know why, and now we'll hopefully like to get more information about what went down. And let's get to the actual game now, though, Jr. Because that was a game that certainly lived up to the billing of SimWorld U Game of the Week. And number 3 Kentucky beat number 2 UCLA 89-82. And this was a game where I had said it coming in that you were gonna have to get some performances from guys around Jameson Johnson and Glory Tate when they both weren't on the floor, or when Johnson was on the floor. It had to come down to trust and Adonis Knight. And those two did pitch in, but I don't even want to talk. I really don't want to lead with Jameson Johnson and Gloria Tate, even though I should, because they both played phenomenal, both scored 19 points in the game. But Stephon Burks and Trav Cunningham, those two kids, those freshmen, really stepped up big time, especially Burks. 10 of 12 from the free throw line, and he hit a good chunk of them down the stretch. I think it was 7 in a row or something like that for the Wildcats on the stretch at the end of that game.
Yeah, definitely very solid all around performance across the board from Kentucky. And like you said, they had contributions across the board. Everybody was stepping up and contributing, in last night's game. And in such a big prime time, ranked battle like that, that's exactly what you want to have.
100%. Exactly. You need guys who are going to step up, other guys who are going to step up in those big moments. And we certainly got a lot of that. Also, want to, before we end the show here, want to give a shout out to Blaine Kidd as well. Blaine Kidd had a bit of a coming out party for him last night for the Bruins. He was a big reason why they were able to get back in that game to begin with, and even have a chance to make the score as close as it was here at the end. But Jalen Snow ended up leading the way for the Bruins. But that's going to do it for us this morning. Thank y'all for joining us. As always, we appreciate you very much. We've got 2 games on broadcast tonight. We've got Houston and Louisville and Stanford and Auburn tonight, starting at 7 o'clock and 8:30 p.m. Both of those games. Remember, do all the usual stuff you do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can know when all of our shows, videos, streams, all that stuff go live for you here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game. And we will see you all tomorrow with more SimWorld Today.